Hello, chairete. Hello, everyone, salvete. And I am Luke, and this is Polymathy, and this is not the regular type of video I normally do on Fridays because I'm working on quite a few that I want to edit properly, but I've always put out something on Fridays, and I'm not going to stop now. And there's actually a really important topic that I think is worth discussing, which is how on earth can we actually learn ancient Greek? People have asked me this in the comments a lot. So I thought I would make a little live stream and briefly go over some of these methods. Please feel free to ask questions here in the live stream and in the comments later, and I'll let you know what I think. So I have been studying ancient Greek actually about as long as I've been studying Latin, but my Latin is, of course, a lot better. And that's really not because the language is necessarily harder, though there are some obvious things that make Latin easier for most people, especially if they speak English or Italian or French or Spanish, than learning ancient Greek. But most of those are superficial. And really, the reason that ancient Greek is hard to learn is because they're just the materials out there aren't necessarily the best. So I wanted to talk about those things today. So first, let's compare it to one of the best way to learn. One of the best ways to learn Latin, which is, of course, Familia Romana. And you may be familiar with this. If you're not and you want to learn Latin, this is the way. I have, of course, recorded the entire audio on my other channel, Scorpio Martianus. But what is so great about this book is that you only need it to learn the entire Latin language. Here, let me turn off those sidebar. There we go. It teaches everything through the pictures and the marginal notes through a map, and it starts with these wonderful, simple sentences. Rome in Italia est, Italia in Europa est, and so forth. There does not exist anything exactly like this for ancient Greek, which is the problem that a lot of us might have, because there are very good books out there, and I'll talk about some of them. So in the military, we say the bottom line up front. What is the bottom line up front? Since this does not exist in a truly complete form for ancient Greek, what can we do? And so you're asking a lot of good questions. I will get to those after I give the bottom line up front. So the bottom line up front is this is how you should learn, in my opinion, ancient Greek, or this is, I think, a way that will work for the majority of people. I've been trying this out for the better part of a year. Use my Ancient Greek in Action series. This video series, and I'll look at a little bit of it right now. I have it kind of play in the background. Hopefully, by the way, my looks like my video quality is pretty good here. Good, glad about that. So what this does is it teaches the entire basics of the grammar, quite a lot of it here. Let me do this. In the context entirely of the language, only using pictures, audio, and that's it. This is very similar to Aleph with Beth, which does this. This is similar to French in Action. Aleph and Beth teaching biblical Hebrew, of course. So this is where you should begin. Now, there are 12 of these videos so far. I haven't made any more in the past few months because I want to refine the method. But essentially, the idea was to get you to ATHENAZE, which is this book that is very well known, and we'll see why it's well known here. So this is where you should begin. That's what you want to do. And then what you should do? Well, what you should do after that is go to, if you are not a native speaker of Italian, or if you're not a very fluent speaker of Italian, the next thing you should go is to this version of ATHENAZE. I call this the ATHENAZE UK version. And it is the version that was published in the UK, written by a Brit and an American, Balmy and Lawal. And this is not maybe the one that most people are familiar with, which is actually the Italian version, but I'll talk about that in a moment. So this has a complete narrative. It is something like a novella, and it carries on a story about this character called Dicaeopolis. And so what it does is it gives you some basic vocabulary that you need to learn, right? So like estin means is. that's a good word to know. And then legi, that means says, speaks. And then it has this narrative. Now, this is not the super easy sentences we just saw for the Latin, is it? But let me know how my audio is. Hopefully it's pretty clear. So the Hodikaiopolis Athenaios estin, Wikidioudikaiopolis ukentais Athenais alantois ukrois. So Dikaiopolis is an Athenian, and he doesn't live in the city itself, in Athens, but in the country, and so forth. So this is about it. But this is not immediately comprehensible like Familia Romana, which is somewhat to its detriment. But everything we need to know is gloss. These are glosses, where we have a single word and then its equivalent in English here. This is way better than raw grammar translation. Learning languages by raw grammar translation, that is to say, you just learn about a grammatical concept like the possessive form, the genitive case, and then you learn how to do that and translate from Greek into English or whatever your native language is incredibly painful and boring. So this is better than that. It is, however, for the most part, very similar because it still explains these basic grammatical things. It's still a lot friendlier than a more painful pure grammar translation method, though. Now, that said, this is not as famous because there is another version which is called, what's still called ATHENAZE, and this is the version from Italy, published by Vivarium Novum. And this has all the same things. In fact, I'll go back to the beginning where I just was. And we see here that there's far more pictures. Things are introduced by marginal notes, very similar to Familia Romana, which is great. And this is, this is a kleros. So if you can tell that this is a house with fields, you learn that kleros is an estate or a partition of land, a farm. However, only half of the vocabulary is introduced in context, like mikros, small, makros, large or long, actually, because the rest is glossed in Italian. Now, the pictures make it very nice. O Dikaiopolis ton agron skapti, Dikaiopolis shovels or digs the field. So we can understand a lot from context, but we still need to know another language besides ancient Greek. We can't get it all from context. In this case, it's Italian. Now, most people in the world don't speak Italian; they speak English, of course. And because of that, it makes a lot of sense to use the British version, the ATHENAZE UK, which is as I call it, and not this one. But this one is so much more attractive. Not only that, what happened is Vivarium Novum, Miraglia, and Borri, they took these the original text, they made it much longer. They repeated a lot of important verbs and concepts to try to give that important repetition. See my extensive reading video where I talk about how you can use something like this. Audio. By the way, I've recorded the audio of most of this volume and all of the UK one for free. I posted on Patreon because it's very easy to post audio there, but it's for free for anyone in the world to listen to and to download. And eventually there'll be links in the description for that. You can access them. If you go to lucranieri.com, you'll find all of my audio recordings there. So what is the method I recommend? As nice as even the UK one is, the ATHENAZE UK version is for native English speakers, it is highly imperfect because it starts out still pretty tough. You really should have a background in some other stuff before you even attempt, I think, the ATHENAZE UK. And because it is so unfriendly to, I'd say, probably most people, except though it's still better than most methods, is then to use my Ancient Greek in Action series. I made these 12 videos that it would cover all of the vocabulary and grammar necessary to understand the, let's put one of these in the background, to understand all of the grammar and vocabulary to start chapter 1 of ATHENAZE. Of the ATHENAZE UK. Here, I do all this in Ancient Greek, talking about here, this and that, and all these different things. Okalamos, the pen, right? So that's the idea. Watch those 12 videos, then read the first chapter of ATHENAZE UK, then read the first chapter of ATHENAZE, Italy, e così via, and so forth, and because then why would you use the Italy version at all? You would use the Italy version because, well, it's better. And why is it better? Because it has much more narrative in ancient Greek, and it has these pictures. So effectively, what you do is, like, before chapter 2, you will have learned basic grammatical concepts and vocabulary. Then you can come to the Italy version. You see the pictures. There are these glosses here, but if you don't know Italian, which few people do, obviously, and you can still use this you don't need this because you will already have learned this from the previous chapter. The 12 videos of ancient Greek in action so far are designed to prepare you for at least chapter 1. In fact, they prepare you for a good amount of chapter 2 and further. But then you can work your way reading the UK version of ATHENAZE, then the Italy version, and then read the UK version of chapter 2, and then capitolo 2, chapter 2, and the Italy version. And you can just use these pictures and marginal notes, and then the longer narrative, about twice as long per chapter, which is important because the more we read stuff that is comprehensible, that we already understand, the more we reinforce what we need to learn and to understand. That is the essence of the reading method. So that is the bottom line up front. That's what you think you should do. Yeah, you're asking a lot of really great questions here. So I am going to address some of those now. Okay, so let's start at the top here. Is there a best way to do anything? No, this is the title of the YouTube video. This is what I recommend. This is what I do with my students. Those 12 videos of ancient Greek in action, which give you so much in context, then you're ready for ATHENAZE. Why use ATHENAZE? Because it's so comprehensible. It takes you from it takes you to a good intermediate level where you're able to read, say, Aristophanes, where you're able to certainly read biblical Greek. Also, it's very important to say that Koine Greek is ancient Greek. People don't always remember that. Or people believe that because I think classical Greek is ancient Greek, that Koine Greek is not. Koine Greek is ancient Greek. These are different varieties of ancient Greek. Was there a reason that this is on Polymathy? Yes, because I'm speaking English. And I have a video on Scorpio Martianus where I do this, but it's in Latin. So you can go check that out. It's in my Ancient Greek through Latin series, which is another way to learn ancient Greek. If you already speak Latin, watch those videos. I don't. This is just what I usually do with my own students. So let's move on here. Boa tarde to you as well. I only just started going through Orberg and already being tempted by ATHENAZE. Yes, I would definitely get I think if you get a good handle on Latin, it'll just make it that much easier to get used to ancient Greek because so many of the concepts are transferable. But when you're ready, use at least the 12 videos. There's going to be more. I'm going to be continuing to make the Ancient Greek in Action series with videos that help you, that you can watch. Like, I'll designate, all right, watch these videos before you read chapter 2 and so forth, and before chapter 3 and 4, so that one can make a better and more comfortable use of ATHENAZE, more as a reader where you already know what all the vocabulary is, and that you get more enrichment rather than getting hit with the concepts. Let's see. And let's see. Indeed. Well, not tonal, though. Tonal languages, ancient Greek is better understood as a pitch accent language, like Japanese, where there's simply 2 tones, a high and low. Tonal languages have at least 3. I moved to Athens, and people there, I say it's better to learn modern Greek and ancient Greek. There's a lot of help. I mean, I do recommend learning Italian or a Romance language before learning Latin if you want to learn to speak it, especially, and if you want to learn a bit about the phonology. There are, however, some really tremendous differences between modern and ancient Greek, whereas there are a lot of things in common phonetically with Romance languages like Spanish and Italian, as opposed to the Greek side of things. There are things that certainly help. But sure, yeah, you can. Necessary. But if you want to learn both modern and ancient Greek, yeah, learn modern Greek. It's easier to learn modern Greek because there's better material and there are native speakers with whom to speak. Yeah, learning Latin and ancient Greek is wonderful for learning all kinds of things about certainly about English and other languages, and they work very well together. Yep, bottom line up front. Oh yes, it's the best. And Pitt, thank you so much for the this is very generous of you. Wow, thanks for this. So Princeton is stopping the language requirement in Greek and Latin in classic students because of uh, well, I mean, for whatever reason it is. Yeah, I heard about that. I don't work in the university realm, so I mean, it's a university, a private one too, right? So they can kind of do whatever they want. And any university can do that. What do I recommend? I recommend learning these languages. I mean, if classic students, the point of the classics is to read classics in Western universities, would mean learning Latin and ancient Greek to read the material. And are they learning just through translations? Okay, I mean, I recommend learning the languages. If you have any more questions, thanks so much for your generosity, Pitt. Just let me know, and I'll address them during the live stream. Let's see. Oh, great. I'm glad you find it helpful. Yeah, I find it helpful just making them for my own edification. Really, whenever you try to teach something, particularly in a video where it has to be, as 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 clean as possible, um, you want it to be good, so it has to be. So I learned a lot at that fundamental level. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, yeah, well, those are all languages I love for sure. Tikanistora. Um, Kala, I'm doing well. And you're learning Koine, how grammar translation, Lord Roku. Well, yeah, you can enjoy the grammar translation method, but the result, which has been definitively demonstrated by, I mean, at least Stephen Krashen, but a number of other papers I could point you to, is that grammar translation just teaches you how to translate. It doesn't actually give you language acquisition. That is, you don't become a fluent reader, certainly not a fluent speaker. You learn about the language, but you don't actually learn the language. That's the long and short of it. Um, I have done a lot of transcription of ATHENAZE, yes, and I found it very helpful. Yeah, I don't have any links, I don't think, in the description at all yet. I'll put them on later. But if you go to Scorpio Martianus, they're all there. Okay. Yes, Reading Greek. I've been recording all of Reading Greek for my Patreon supporters. If you are interested in becoming a patron, you can, it's patreon.com/Luke Ranieri, and you can listen to Reading Greek. I've been recording the whole thing. Lovely book. I really enjoy the text, especially when it gets into what is it? Clouds, where it gets really funny. Wonderful. Better than the raw grammar translation. But all of these textbooks, Thrasymachus, ATHENAZE even, which is the best, Alexandros, all of them have this terrible problem of essentially being way harder than they need to be. Um, they're all really good. They're all essentially, through the years, have cobbled together methods for myself, for my students, and keep pushing back and forth. The best way I found is basically ATHENAZE takes you to such a good place because you have so many methods, and I've seen people who have already frustrated by the plethora of materials for all old fashioned. Though it's actually the more current past 2 centuries fashion, old fashioned grammar translation, or other kinds of books like ATHENAZE, and all these methods that are out there for learning, either it's biblical Greek, focused on the Koine dialect of biblical Greek, or if it's focused on a broader ancient Greek or specifically classical Greek, whatever, there's a lot of options out there, and none of them is really easy. It's something like, for those of you who've climbed both, um, I don't know, I was going to compare it to Vesuvius and Mount Fuji, but that's not really an excellent example. Essentially, the way up the mountain of Latin is super clear. It's a mountain, but it's a well-paved path, and you have all the handholds and everything you need. You have to do it. You're going uphill, and you have to learn it, but that's lingua latina per se lo strata. You get to complete reading fluency just in the first volume, and you get all the enrichment you need for huge amounts of the language just by using that. For Greek, there's all this stuff, but like stuff that's the best is still too hard for most. I'd say by far the most majority of people in the world, and even for the most people who would want to learn, they have to really struggle using both of the ATHENAZEs together, which works really well. I think those first 12 videos of ancient Greek in action are really, really important to just kind of ease a lot of people in. So at least because it's just that very beginning part. Um, if there existed for Latin only Familia Romana, that would be what most people need to get to a more advanced level. That would be their path. That would be more than enough. And that's what we have to get you to that level in ancient Greek is so much rockier. It's like you're jumping from boulder to boulder instead of walking up a path. That's how it feels. And not only myself, but other people are working on methods for improving that. We'll talk about that. So I'll talk about reading Greek. Um, Right. If you're I mean, that is helpful. Yeah, I mean, if you're mm, assuming you're really good at English, whether native speaker or otherwise, then I do think using both is good. There's another advantage. You're reading the story twice, and you're reading a short version, which gives you like, okay, this is what's going on in the UK version. Then you go to the Italy version and get this much longer version of the same thing per chapter. And I find that to be very good because you're just getting the reinforcement to become more comfortable. It's not the most efficient thing, but I think it is effective. Oh, yes. With that, I think it'd be a good choice if one has modern Greek knowledge. Yeah, of course. Currently working through the Assimil Modern Greek course with the aim of going towards ancient Greek afterwards. Yes. Yeah, whether you have modern Greek knowledge or not, I do think that this method works for most people. Ancient Greek in action, and then ATHENAZE UK, ATHENAZE Italy, chapter by chapter. How how is it that Luke's voice doesn't change when switching languages? I actually think I change my voice a lot depending on what language I'm speaking. It's not really deliberate, but anyway. Um, you should be, if you speak modern Greek well, I don't know. Yeah, you still would probably get a lot out of using both books because of the reasons I mentioned. But yeah, as long as you can understand the explanations of because unlike you need to be able to understand the explanations of grammar and vocabulary. Thus, you need to know either English or Italian to use one or the other ATHENAZE. Um, let's see. What do you think about learning ancient Greek and Latin simultaneously? If you have the time, you could learn 12 languages at once. Some people don't have the time to learn a single language. Um, so I've studied multiple languages at the same time, and it was really great for me. I've also studied languages at the same time, and it wasn't great for me. So but that's really about how much free time you have to dedicate, and hopefully you have good methods and tools. There's so many methods and tools out there which are just not the best. Even Athena Italy is, even as a fluent Italian speaker, when I came to it, I found um, it just doesn't have the same kind of clarity, flow. It's not pedagogically nearly as well designed as Familia Romana, but literally nothing is. So there you go. Okay. Um, let's see. Yes, but I featured my to describe family relationships in the genitive case, possession, and so forth. I used pictures of my family pictures when I was like baby pictures of me over on in the Ancient Greek in Action series. I'm glad you enjoyed them. Recommendation on primary text for beginning ancient Greek students. There is absolutely no reason in any language to use primary text, by which I think you mean actual authentic stuff written in ancient Greek by ancient Greek authors. Why? Why would you do that? ATHENAZE, actually, the UK version in particular, does that really well. At the end of every chapter is a little bit of a quote of something from like a philosopher, or from the book of Luke or the book of John, which is great, but not really necessary. There's no reason that you have to. Why would you? I think because people think, oh, my goal is to read an ancient language, so I want to read the material. That's fantastic. I would counsel patience. In fact, I know extremely prominent and influential native fluent Latin speakers who are wonderful teachers who don't like Familia Romana because it doesn't ring authentic in the beginning, because it's so basic. And I think that's funny, because that's how you actually learn language, is to learn in the much more artificial way. Look at any basic textbook for Italian or Spanish or Russian. They're not going to throw much poetry at you from Pushkin or Petrarca or Cervantes in the beginning. They're not going to do that, unless there's like a really easy thing. But at the same time, why? You don't require that to learn the language, and it can be nice as we kind of like dangle, hey, keep learning, you'll be able to read this guy, which would be great. But I don't think it's the way to learn. Is Romanian a Romance language? Absolutely. Romanian is extremely similar to Italian. It's definitely of the major five Romance languages. I count as the major five, if you'll forgive the exclusion in that of Catalan, which I don't exclude actually. Portuguese, Spanish, French, Italian, Romanian. Italian and Romanian are rather similar. Learning Maltese before learning Arabic. I've heard of that. Thanks. Likewise. Nice Rick and Morty avatar. Yeah, not only they're hard, they're just not designed for learners. Why use them? I don't understand. You can. Salut, Galle. Hello from France. Isn't the problem of the Italian Athenaze the fact that both books, both volume 2, introduced so few vocabulary compared to... they introduce a lot of vocabulary. But Athenaze is equivalent to Familia Romana, not to Roma Eterna, because Roma Eterna is all, except for the first chapter, chapter 36. Familia Romana, or Roma Eterna, is all the original authentic primary sources adapted as a graded reader. Whereas Athenaze, except for, depending on the chapter, there's some adapted from Herodotus, there's some adapted from Thucydides, some adapted from Aristophanes in the end. But for the most part, Athenaze is not really forcing primary sources on you that much. I think it does it more than necessary, but its goal is to teach you the language. Oh, right. That's true. Let's see. Hello, Aurora. Yes, I do. How to learn it, and that most of those are on my other channel, Scorpio Martianos. Go and subscribe there, and I have 400 videos on that channel. Go take a look. Okay, any resource on how to hear Homeric poems read in dactylic hexameter? Yes, Podium Arts and Ioannis Stratakis, who is Greek. He does a very beautiful reconstructed classical ancient Greek pronunciation, and he's recited Homer there, and he has videos where he speaks in modern Greek, but with English subtitles explaining those basics. So that should help, I hope. Otherwise, Homeric is a pain for a number of reasons. Basically, because Homeric Greek is, of course, written like all ancient Greek, which is the standard way to write ancient Greek, based on Attic in the fashion of Koine with Byzantine orthography, and therefore the sound of the language is quite different. Okay. Yes, I think I've answered this right. So yeah, both. If you are not a native speaker of Italian, I think you should get both, um, because then you can use one, then the other. Craig, how you doing? I love learning the classical languages, Latin, Greek, Roman languages. Isa, Isikara, thank you very much. Kalispera to you as well. I have started to write a short novella in Latin, but I haven't gotten very far. The first chapter of it is on Scorpio Martianus. Actually, it's the prologus. Alexandros Stefanidis tells us how, yeah, you in Greece you learn ancient Greek at an early age, but it's grammar translation mostly. So, okay. So how do you adopt a modern name? You could do all kinds of things in Latin. You could take the name as it is and add the kind of ending. You could do so many things you could do. But there are the vast majority of names do have a Latin equivalent, which already exists. Craig asked, do you think more of the classics could and should be out there? Yeah, in movie theater. Sure, why not? It's a wonderful source of culture and great stories and myths. Okay, what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna get to more of your questions, but what I'd like to do is talk a bit about other things that are out there. So one of them, which is really lovely, is a project being done by a colleague, and his name is Seamus MacDonald. He's been writing this Lingua Greca per se illustrata, which is similar to Famiglia Romana, and it's meant to be in the model of it. It's doesn't have any pictures or anything yet. He's written 19 chapters so far. So whom is this for at this time? This is if you already know ancient Greek to high beginner to intermediate level, whereas you'll understand everything, and then what you don't understand, you have the patience to look up in a dictionary. That's where I was when I got to this book. The stuff I didn't know, I looked up in a dictionary, and then I learned how. It's a really really lovely. The story's entertaining. If he ever finishes this wonderful project someday, I think it'll be a wonderful resource. So I want to talk about that. The other thing I wanted to talk about is Alexandros, because here we actually have something which it looks a lot like Famiglia Romana, and in fact, where is this? Ubi est puestin? Where did it go? No, I can't find it. There is. So I wanted to talk about, there it is, that it is, ancient Greek through Latin. So if you already know Latin, then you should definitely watch these live streams I've done with my dear friend, Chris Davis. He's a Latin speaker, a fluent Latin speaker. And in these live streams, we use the book Alexandros and its companion book, which is called Mythologica, and it's a reader, and it's very much in the model of Famiglia Romana. It doesn't have any words in it except for the introduction, which is written in Latin and translated into Spanish. It doesn't have any English in it or any other language, just ancient Greek. So it seems like a lot like Famiglia Romana, which is really great. There's one significant problem, though, with it, which we'll take a look at now. The problem with Alexandros is it's not. It is absolutely not Familia Romana. Now, it's based off of A Greek Boy at Home by Rouse, which is a lovely but much harder textbook, much harder reader. And it is a companion to a grammar translation book anyway. So, I mean, a wonderful reader. But so the attempt here, here's the introduction in Latin, which is pretty cool. Oh gosh, I'm sorry, I forgot his name. Avila, then Mario Diaz Avila. He took A Greek Boy at Home and simplified it greatly in order to try to make something like Familia Romana. Look, there's a map of Greece, and then there's the alphabet. But we'll see the problem immediately with it. I mean, it depends on what your perspective is. If you're expecting Familia Romana, you're not going to get that. Doesn't mean this isn't valuable. I find this extremely valuable. That's why I've been using it in my live streams with Chris Davis, Ancient Greek through Latin. Subscribe to Scorpio Martianos, my other channel. And that is because we see I've also recorded this whole textbook on from my Patreon supporters. Thanks, by the way, to all of you. So this so theonoma humin estin. Now onoma. Now this is assuming you can actually read the alphabet, which isn't really that easy necessarily for most people. So the alphabet is given in the beginning here, but there are no equivalents to Roman letters. So you have to find a way to learn the alphabet some way and how to pronounce it. And by the way, there's a lot of different ways to pronounce Ancient Greek. I, of course, recommend Lucian pronunciation, which along with Raphael Turrigiano worked on and put out just, like, I think at least hundreds of hours of material so far over the past year and a half since he and I developed that pronunciation system, which is rather intermediate between the more archaic and more modern pronunciations, which is why I think it's useful for most people. But, whatever, this is de gustibus, right? Whatever you prefer. Anyway, so, like, how would you know how to pronounce it? You might can come up with something. So, like this is super idiomatic. If you have this and you're the teacher in the classroom, you can make this dialogue happen. You can do this with your students. What's your name? What's your name? My name is Luke. And you do that, then the students get everything from context. My opinion is that this book is excellent in class, even in an ancient Greek only classroom, if the teacher knows ancient Greek really well. And then occasionally, as necessary, can explain a few things in the vernacular language, whether it's Spanish or English or Italian, whatever. But the problem is that this is not something, unlike Familia Romana, where you can just use, and like that's how I learned Latin. I just picked up that book and I just learned Latin. I didn't need anything else or anyone else to help me. Of course, I benefited enormously over the years from the help of friends, colleagues, teachers who knew Latin, even though I'm essentially self-taught and just benefiting from other people's assistance. This has pictures. This is great. So here, this picture is trying to tell us this. What does this mean? Who has a guess? Now you have to guess only if you don't know Greek yet. Assume you can read the alphabet. And we have this picture. O Philippos Georgos Georgi Tochorion. This picture, unlike Familia Romana, is not at all per se illustrata. It's not clear in of itself. It doesn't make sense what this is just from, like we see, it looks like a proper noun, right? So and it looks like, hey, Philip, I know that name, Ho Philippos. So Philippos is Georgos. Wonder what that means. Guy, and Georgi Tochorion. And something. So you might know this is the, this is and, this is, but otherwise all the vocabulary is unclear. Means I live in the fields or the country. And that's an important thing, that they've been something, right? And then Georgi, and so this is Philip is a farmer and he farms the farm. The picture doesn't make that clear. Now, if you have a teacher in the classroom who can use a teaching language, now I use Latin with Chris Davis, who was a fluent Latin speaker, and so we were able to learn everything with using some Latin and sometimes rather minimal Latin. But you need something intermediary, a teacher who's using a language you already know that's not ancient Greek, or who is really involved in the classroom to help you to learn the language. So that is, it's the benefit is you don't have anything like we have heme ter hemon is heme ter mu kai tu Stefanu kai tes Helenes. So you have to understand this to understand the new thing. So heme ter mu, my mother, kai tu Stefanu kai tes Helenes. So this is my mother and Stephanos' mother and Helene's mother is heme ter hemon. That's pretty much that's a stretch to figure out this means our mother. You can, and it's nice to have, but these feel more like notes that a student might have written to help him or herself recall something learned in the classroom, if that student were using just ancient Greek to take notes in, rather than didactically the best tool. Again, I think this is for someone who knows ancient Greek really well to teach in a classroom setting, and is really great. So check out if you know Latin at all, check the ancient Greek through Latin videos. So that's the issue. The best textbooks out there fall far short of what is needed for self-study. Even ATHENAZE, I don't think is really great for self-study, unless at least you watch those first 12 videos of ancient Greek in action. Then I think you'll be sufficiently prepared to do one chapter of ATHENAZE UK, then one chapter of ATHENAZE Italy, and back and forth. It's going to be like jumping from boulder to boulder, uphill, up a mountain, but it's going to be way easier than trying to scale a sheer cliff, which is what most of the other books are like. Okay, Craig, thank you for that question. Let's take some more of your questions. Speaking sticks. You can't even, yeah, exactly. Any active use of language, whether it's actively reading or well, I guess reading is passive. Anything like being able to speak a little bit gives you the ability to really know a language. Oh, I'd love to hear Greco, as it's called, are dialects of modern Greek, descended from medieval Greek, which are spoken in Italy. And I've heard a little bit of them on YouTube, but I've never been there. They're mostly similar to modern Greek, as I understand. So Ramona, going on more about the Reading Greek book by Jax. I think that reading Greek takes you pretty far. If you're comfortable and you're learning, great. Otherwise, use ATHENAZE. ATHENAZE is going to be way easier at first, and then it's just going to round out your learning experience. That's my opinion. I honestly don't think I know it terribly well, but that's because ancient Greek really, because of the tools out there, which aren't that great, there's several things. Latin is really consolidated as a dialect. Like Latin is just Latin. Latin is Latin, you learn Latin, you learn Latin. Ancient Greek never really had the same kind of standardization. Essentially, Attic is that standardization. Even Koine is really just Attic under a different name, the Common Attic. It's challenging because of that variety. There's a lot of synonyms, and also people know Latin really well. There aren't that many people who know ancient Greek as well as people know Latin, which means that the textbooks aren't as good either. This Alexandros book is really good, but it has mistakes that I catch. Especially accent things. Like there's a lot of orthography things, and the accents are really important, but anyway, that's my opinion. A Latin through Greek series. Yeah, so like I'd have to speak modern Greek or ancient Greek for that. I don't know. Sure, one day. I did a bit of acting and theater in high school and college, but just for fun. Hey, this is Chris Davis. Pernox, subscribe to his channel because it's amazing, and because he sings beautiful voice. And we've been using this Alexandros book together. And hold on, wait for it. Ancient Greek through Latin. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I have a couple of videos of ATHENAZE, but I was using, that was before I was using a pronunciation that I'm more comfortable with, which is the Aleutian pronunciation. I have, however, recorded all of ATHENAZE Volume 1, UK, and the first half of the Italy version for free for everyone. I posted on Patreon because it's good for sharing audio. Check them out. Yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention Ancient Greek Alive. Ancient Greek Alive is a really nice book. It is a really nice book, Ancient Greek Alive. I do like that one, by the way. I'd say I have more of these. Um, there were these readers, these intermediate level things that I want to keep using to improve my own knowledge. But I really enjoy reading like Aristophanes and plays. Splackenziatisch is pretty cool too. Is ancient Greek more irregular? In a way, the third declension, so Latin has very clean fifth and fourth declensions. Greek just has an enormous third declension with about 27 different kinds. They're not, once, there is the appearance of more variety of ancient Greek, but once you get used to what's going on, the categories start to fill in. But that's why, of course, oh yeah, I made something to help with this. If you go to lucranieri.com, you will go to my audiobook store. And then if you are interested, I do recommend either Latin by the Ranieri-Dowling method or Ancient Greek by the Ranieri-Dowling method. So here I took all of the things you need to memorize for Ancient Greek and put them in a spreadsheet, which you, if you were to buy this, you would then download it. And then I have the audio recitation of all of them. So you can learn by listening, by reading, by transcribing, and keep track and try to do as many of them as you can before tackling something like ATHENAZE. Yeah, Byzantine Greek is secondly medieval Greek. Most Byzantine Greek, though, is written in a Koine Attic style, so it's all overlapping. I do recommend Horrocks' book, which talks about this in more detail. That's right. Yes, ATHENAZE is definitely the way to go, I think. Oh wow, Micah, how far behind you? Yes, it is. I think it was Emperor Claudius who wrote that. Salve Alexi, nos internos videbimus die solis. Efkaristo. Yes, absolutely. I'm behind in them. I'm looking at the methods, but they're going to help to continue to guide people through ATHENAZE. You can also just not use them. You just use my videos, and I think that'd be enough to learn a lot. But it's nice to have something to help go along with something like ATHENAZE. So what is my opinion on Sanskrit? Sanskrit is great. I haven't hardly studied it at all. Yes. My modern Greek is very poor, though. Just wait. Okay. What do I think of the Septuagint? It's the translation in the Greek of the 3rd or 2nd century BC. I'm not sure what the question is. It's great. I've enjoyed reading it. I incorporated some of it into my Ancient Greek in Action series, actually, already. Buonasera. Russian, I think just comprehensible Russian. There is Russian with Max, and there's at least another. There's some really good channels coming out on YouTube now, which are really good for Russian. I haven't made much use of them though. I haven't been concentrating on it. Yes, I will do more of that. We think of Arabic dialects. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, see my language versus dialect video. I think I answered that there. Thanks, Aurora. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, that's up to the individuals, but I think it's an interesting theory. Or interesting notion. Once languages have a kind of national or cultural identity, which is separate from the older language, then they start to drift more. Although they've already drifted a lot in Arabic, I know, right? Reading Greek. I think I answered this, right? If you have further questions, let me know, Luis. I would love to learn Arabic. I don't have a good approach except maybe using Asimil, which I tried a bit of. Actually, I have here notes I took. I see this a year ago when I started to learn Arabic, and then I didn't go any further. I just was transcribing some of the stuff from Asimil. It's not impressive. It's just a little bit of transcribing. I thought I needed Arabic, then I didn't, so I went back to Latin and Greek stuff. Cool. Georgian, a little to know about it. It's a very interesting language. Aristophanes. It's fun. Also Lucian. You'll remember. I do actually. Yes, we're going to, and once we finish Alexandros and Mythologica, we're definitely going to do more. Yeah, as much as he wants to do. He's been wonderful and super helpful to a lot of people by being the student, the model student, literally the model student. Salve. Wonderful. Hey, subscribe to Ion Academy. I have a video I'm going to be doing about Ion Academy pretty soon here, but talk about wonderful, comprehensible input, books similar to Familia Romana for Italian, English, Spanish, French. It's wonderful. Definitely check out and subscribe to Ion Academy. In Greek, so the partitive genitive, normally I was just reading about this today. Partitive genitive, normally it's placed after the noun, but that's not that, significant of a difference. In Latin, for example, there's no really way to tell it. It just sort of is. I wouldn't worry that much about it. If just reading, writing is a different thing. Hola, Daniela. You wish there more grammar translate? Well, it depends if you want to translate, then great, translate. I want to read fluently. Lucian and Aristophanes are currently my favorites. All right, Yusuf. So what do you think about the text with literal interlinear translation? They seem to render that which is incomprehensible comprehensible in an indirect way. Oh yeah, and I've seen some really good interlinear stuff for Greek as well, which is really they're really cool. Some old ones. I think it's great because you get to keep the syntax and you just can, like, with a short little eye movement, get the word. Ideally, you already have a fluency level, but anything's better than raw translation. So I love interlinear stuff. It's very, very good. Sorry, my voice is a little weak today. Hey, Graf. It is what it is. Yes, it is. Okay, where are we? Hey, I'm almost caught up. Gilvisen Hortos, yeah. Those books are okay. I prefer Familia Romana. I'm not familiar. It sounds like grammar translation. Okay, I finally caught up with the comments. So the bottom line up front is also the bottom line at the end. I think you should, well, so it's just to kind of promote my own audiobook. This could be very helpful to get a sense of all the paradigms that you need to have committed to memory to master ancient Greek. I do recommend this. I mean, I made it for myself, of course, and for anybody else who wants to buy it. That is really good. If you already know Latin, use the Ancient Greek through Latin live stream series with Chris Davis that I've been doing. But more likely, you will probably benefit by watching all 12 of the current videos, and there'll be more of Ancient Greek in action. Then ATHENAZE UK, Chapter 1, then ATHENAZE Italy, Chapter 1, and go like that, leapfrogging all the way through the whole series, both of them. That is how I think that's how I teach my own students ancient Greek. It works. There are plenty of other methods. I think that's the method that works for most people, and I think the end point that you get to just by using those two ATHENAZEs, if you the end point is I mean, you're reading Aristophanes at the end. That's great. That's really good. So that's like equivalent to Familia Romana. Alexandros doesn't take you that high. And reading Greek is too difficult. Ancient Greek Alive has a lot of nice readings and is a very good of all the ancient of the grammar translation books. Ancient Greek Alive is one of my favorites. It's super friendly and cute, and it's a lot of turtles. The turtles are really cute. Whoops, wait, where'd you go? What do you after you finish the book? ATHENAZE? You can read primary stuff. So yeah. Oh yeah, the polis. I forgot polis was one I wouldn't talk about. Polis, not great for self-study. You need someone who knows ancient Greek to teach it to you, or you already know ancient Greek enough to teach yourself the stuff that's in there. You can use a dictionary or something like that. I've been recording all of Assimil le Grec Ancien for my Patreon supporters. Yeah, my comment is that it's great. Like it's like any other Assimil course for the most part. If you like Assimil type courses, I certainly have gotten a lot out of it. And yeah, use it. You get some conversational stuff out of it. It's not bad. Oh, here we go. Sorry, I see this question. Yes. Oh gosh, what's it called? Modern Greek for Classicists that Paideia publishes. Actually, I have a video about this on this channel. Modern Greek for classicists. Check it out. Check out my YouTube video. What is meant? But what do you think of the Greek in the Septuagint? So read if you really want to know a much more informed opinion than my own. Read Horrocks' book, which does the entire history of the ancient Greek language. He talks about this. One of the things he says is that people have accused biblical Greek, whether Septuagint or New Testament, of being somewhat Semitic, somewhat like Hebrew or like Aramaic, but he demonstrates that you can't really blame it on that, because if you look at like native Greek letters and other things being written where there's clearly no influence from Semitic languages, ancient Greek in that Koine Greek in that time period, and especially in the lower registers, was kind of doing similar things anyway by coincidence. So yeah, there could be some influence, but not necessarily. It's not Attic style, but that's for that good illusion. So I think I commented on this, right? Yeah. Polis, I think you need a teacher. Same with Alexandros, you need a teacher. These are all great books. They're nothing like Familia Romana. I mean, Familia Romana is just like Ion Academy. Subscribe to Ion Academy, and for modern language books which do that, subscribe to Ayan Academy. AYAN Academy. Oh my, I'm behind on. There were no comments. Now I'm way behind on comments. Yeah, Alexandros is way harder. Thank you for asking this question. I'm happy to repeat it. Koine Greek is a form of ancient Greek. Classical Greek is another form of ancient Greek. Homeric Greek is another form of ancient Greek. They all have in common the same basic grammar and vocabulary. And they're considered to be distinct from modern Greek. I think Amazon should have most of them, if not. Ovidius Naso says, Dic mi, quid prodes linguam didicissi Latinam, posse loqui Graece quae mi lucra feret. So why you're saying Latin, of course, wonderful Latin, nice to read it. Why should I learn Latin? Do you mean in order to access Greek? Yeah, if you can get good enough materials. You don't need to use Latin as an intermediary. I like to. I'm kind of immersing myself in the ancient Roman world that way. The Lingua Latina series is identical wherever you buy it from, except that some of the books in the Italy version, they're bound together in the Latine Disco, like the Colloquia Personarum, and there's an Enchiridion, a manual, which is in there. And what else? Yeah, and the Exarchitia are all in that one book. I think it's more convenient, actually, the Italy stuff, but you get all the stuff from Focus Publishing if you're in North America, or Cultura Classica, or Latine Disco, or wherever you're buying the Lingua Latina series. Okay, my voice is getting tired, so I'll take a couple more here. Yeah, we use ATHENAZE. You'll be able to access them. I will definitely make more videos about religions on Scorpio Martianos to talk about them. It's to some degree. You don't like the Lingua Latina method? Okay, I vehemently disagree with you, sir. To each his own. There's nothing better. I have a video about pitch accent for my Patreon supporters, though. Let's see. Well, let's see. Put that up there. Look at these others. Okay, well, I am going to end here, everyone. If you have other questions I didn't answer, please leave a comment. I'll try to get to it as soon as I can. Thanks so much for being here. I hope this was helpful. Use Ancient Greek in Action, ATHENAZE UK Chapter 1, ATHENAZE Italy Chapter 1, so forth, leap rocking back and forth. And any of these other resources if you like them. But that's what I use with my students. Thanks so much. Χαίρετε, and we'll see you next time. Hujanite.